It's no secret that modern Pokemon games are trash. At this point, I've made countless videos on it, and better YouTubers have made countless videos on it. But all this discussion results in a big so what? What are you guys gonna do? Build your own Pokemon? Because in the last few years, the answer has been, yeah, we are. But none of them can really do it right. The one that's been the biggest hit has been Pal World, which, let me be clear, is ass. There is nothing quite like a survival game where it's impossible to die, or an adventure game where the goal is to stay in one place. The two main ideas of the game conflict with each other. It shows how wonderful and creative the original Pokemon was, because Pokemon's based on real life things that you'd find across Japan. If a young kid beat the game and wanted more, they could simply go outside, something we are still to this day desperately trying to get gamers to do. And while there is no such thing as legendary Pokemon in real life, there are 100% legendary animals. Maybe it's a rare fish that you only ever see once, or bugs that look like they came out of a depressed child's nightmare. I mean, you can look at a Pokemon like Diglett and see how it came to being by looking at a mole. You can take a look at Smeargle and see how it's a Frenchman. In just one glance at Tyrogue, and you can tell that's a child with PTSD. It all leads to a world that feels surprisingly real and grounded despite there being monsters in it. It's a certain innate magic that all these knockoffs have failed to grasp. I mean, Pal World is about as grounded as a dead electrician. You shoot guns at giant monsters and it has no physical effect. It's not about going out into the world and meeting new people or discovering rare creatures. It's about going out into the world, capturing them, and bringing them back to your base, which you build up to put a swimming pool in it that you can't even really use. So when I got sick of playing Pal World, I moved on to all of these ROM hacks. I covered this sick-ass sequel to Fire Red, Pokemon Rocket Edition, and I believe the dude that made Pokemon Unbound should be hired by my uncle who works at Nintendo. But there is still something magical about the official release that these games just don't have. And I think a lot of it comes down to the Pokemon designs themselves. Like, look at this little dragon apple thing. It's so cute. So if this sounds like you, then I suggest you do some smelling salts and log on to Discord, because some crazy genius just remade the entirety of Pokemon Sword on the Game Boy Advance. For the people that like to talk to girls and watch this channel, Pokemon Sword and Shield was kind of a huge deal for Pokemon fans. It was the first Switch game, a console which promised us graphical improvements and mechanical improvements. We saw things like Breath of the Wild and thought, holy shit, Pokemon could be that. We believed, like a Tyrogue whose parents were late coming home from work, that there was some hope for us. But then when Daddy Nintendo got home and whipped out the belt, he took away half of every Pokemon ever made. It was an unprecedented move for the time, but you had players with teams taken from all the way back in 1995 on the original games up to the current generation that team can't be used and has to live the rest of its days on one of Nintendo's shitty online services that could realistically go down at any moment. Every Pokemon fan hopes we can one day return to the times when it's possible to catch them all. But that day hasn't come, and it probably never will come, because in its current state, Pokemon prints money. So fans stronger than me have decided to end the cycle of abuse. They completely demade Sword and Shield within Fire Red's emblem, but kept all of the Pokemon. I'm talking the full story, all and even better features, new sprites for every new monster, and the original side quests of the game that are actually fun. None of those horrible online systems that bog down the open world. It is no longer so easy Joe Biden could beat it. That's right, I'm getting political. And just like our current or former president, depending on when you're watching this game is not perfect. Nothing too game-breaking, but I recommend you save often. And then some of those new sprites look a little iffy. And I say a little iffy because while this doesn't look amazing, Nintendo has been 3D scanning dog shit and uploading that to its games recently, so it still looks better than the current modern titles. And all of these flaws are honestly forgettable. Why? Because you can speed through this game. Any emulator you play it on is going to have a fast forward button, but more than that, it removes all of those horrible cutscenes from Sword and Shield. It is amazing how much better paced this game is when it's not constantly ripping control away from the player. It's just further proof that you really don't have to support this franchise anymore. You can keep your pretensions while still playing new Pokemon and enjoy new content that has the heart and soul of the original series without any of the horrible things that come with the modern versions. With the Game Standard here at Tibbs TV, I'm Jonathan Rosenblum.